Yes. Ok. Allora, puntatone molto speciale, puntatone molto nerd, perché andremo aspetta. Ecco, un po' di casino. Scusate, Ok, forse è meglio così. Ok, no, avevo un po' di ritorni in cuffia, mi tornava praticamente il mondo. Allora, dicevo, puntatone molto nerd, puntatone molto tra di noi, perché l'idea qual è? Oggi andremo a parlare di hardware wallet e andremo a parlarne con chi questi hardware wallet li fa, ovvero direttamente ho invitato qua per noi Douglas di BITBOX, eccolo qua, faccio entrare. Però siccome ovviamente il nostro ospite oggi è internazionale, si parlerà in inglese, quindi andrò assolutamente in inglese sia io che Douglas, quindi farò del mio meglio per mettere sotto i sottotitoli per se qualcuno ha qualche difficoltà, ma immagino di no, perché poi tanto comunque in questo settore l'inglese bisogna saperlo. Ecco, datemi soltanto una conferma in chat se sentite l'eco, lo sento solo io. Vediamo. Meglio così, non si sa. Okay. So, Douglas, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Grazie. Thank you.
I already did a very tiny introduction about you, about what you do, and about BITBOX, but feel free to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian, so I'm not sure what you said exactly, but I'll give a quick introduction. So yeah, my name's Douglas. I am the CEO of Shift Crypto, where we make the BITBOX hardware wallet. I have a technical background in engineering, neuroscience actually also, and founded the company as a spinoff from ETH Zurich here in Switzerland. I'm from America originally, but been in Switzerland for about 10 years. And yeah, I was the original inventor of the first BITBOX 01, which is now retired, around the BITBOX 02. And now my job is no longer technical, it's CEO job, which is mainly talking to people. So happy to talk to all of you today. Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, Marco, you're muted.
I'm trying not to have this noisy echo. I don't know where it comes from, actually.
I don't hear an echo over here. Oh, somehow I can't hear you again. I can't hear anything. There's no mute button this time.
Okay.
Ah, here we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Nope.
Yes.
Okay. No, because this noisy echo that keeps coming back, so makes things very weird and awkward. But I was just saying this isn't to be the end of the career or a very successful deed. You stop being a coder, being a freaker, and you go to the responsibility roles where like you have to deal with money, with contracts, and other stuff. You stop having fun in front of the keyboard and other stuff. Is it a happy ending or a sad ending?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I do miss some of the engineering work. I really like to, I guess, create things, invent things. But I would say this is a transition period. So it's also a lot of fun learning, learning a lot of new skills that I think maybe I had a bit inherently, but learning to develop them and figure out what it is, kind of stepping away from the academic world, this White Castle world, getting out into the real world a bit more. So I think, dealing with people, managing people, dealing with partners in the community, I think really also is a great experience and a growing experience. So I'm quite happy with that.
Okay, because usually they say that people like us, techie guys, are not that good at dealing with other people. We prefer to deal with the code, to deal with the machine. So I mean, that's what usually I hear, especially here in Italy. I don't know if it's a little bit different elsewhere. But good, this gave me a lot of hope. But I'd like to jump directly into the subject of our discussion, which are hardware wallets. So you've been implementing the BITBOX 02 and BITBOX 1. And I wanted to understand a little bit about the technical challenges that are there when you have to deal with such a project. And the first thing that I was thinking about was about the random number generators. So how is it actually possible to have a true random number generator, and how true it is when it comes to a hardware wallet?
Yeah, so that really gets to the heart of, I guess, the security. I would say what the most important aspect when you're designing any security product, if it's a hardware wallet or not, really comes down to random numbers, which is interesting because they're the basis of modern cryptography. It requires that, and especially for Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, you need to have a random number to create your wallet, to create your seed, to create your addresses. And if there's some problem in the randomness, then of course you're gonna have problems where other people could guess what your wallet is and what your private keys are, and then steal your funds. And this has happened multiple times in the past where people are using faulty random number generators. And so that's a crucial aspect. And so you mentioned true random number generators. So when it comes to hardware, embedded firmware, you need to deal with miniature computers called microcontrollers, also secure elements. And these little chips have random number generators inside of them to generate this entropy, this randomness that's needed. And they're advertised as true random number generators. I guess you can never be quite confident that they are true, although they're usually based in physical phenomenon. And so in theory, they are true random number generators in the sense that they're based on quantum phenomenon, which has, I guess physicists have shown that or believe that they are actually truly random. And so trying to harness this with different types of circuitry is what true random number generators do to create entropy. And then again, you can't be confident that it is really true, but there's a lot of tests that exist for randomness. And so all of these devices are run through these tests. So like in the BITBOX, we use true random number generators and our 2 chips that we have in the device. And they also have health checks. So every time a random number is spit out, there's health checks to make sure that it actually is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Cool. I'll show you what I reverted myself to lately. D&D dice and other funny things, and other experiments that I run with were using noise from radio signals, so white noise from a radio tuned on nothing, and then getting the wave sound of that radio and running multiple hashes over that noise, that the sound that comes from the white noise. So
That's cool.
I also heard of a company was using the bubbles from lava lamps and then taking pictures of the bubbles of the lava lamps and all the stuff, and then all those things that were hopefully making actually up for random number, because I mean the paranoid in myself is always scared about this thing. Like, okay, what if somebody happens to guess the private key? And of course, this happens more frequently if the random number generator actually is not that random, is very poor. We've seen cases in which of all the space that was available for random numbers, they were just picking numbers from a tiny slice of those, so it was easier to get them. Wallets got hacked for this reason. So what do you suggest in this case? Would you go with would you rely the true number generators in chips, or would you go with something more fancy, like, for example, D&D dice or other funny stuff?
Yeah, great question. So maybe fancy is not the right word, maybe more unfancy. So
Okay.
I would say with the BitBox, we respect that. Part of our design philosophy is try to minimize the amount of trust people need in us. And so, like you say, can you trust the random number generators and hardware wallets? And so we do offer
Oop, you froze.
dice rolls, and we actually have on our blog post, we have a little tutorial to guide people through that. And I think that's, if you have casino dice, so it shouldn't be any normal dice. You should really get casino grade dice, which is also tested for that they roll randomly. That's probably the best option. That said, I'm pretty confident in the systems we have and other hardware wallets too, that the entropy is okay.
Yeah,
so for the BitBox, for example, I was just going to say, for the BitBox, for example, we have 5 sources of entropy that we cryptographically combine such that the strength of the entropy is as strong as the strongest. And if there's any weak entropy in there, it doesn't matter. It gets overwritten by the stronger entropy.
Interesting. 5 different sources.
Yeah. So we have 2 chips, so 2 true random number generators. And then we also input 3 static pieces of entropy. One is a random number that's unique to every device that we program during factory installation from the factory install computer. Another one is something from your own computer, from your app. And then another one is something not from us at all, but it's randomness generated from a hash of the user password. So something the user actually enters. And then we combine all these every time such that there shouldn't be a single point of failure.
Great. Yeah, because I was thinking if you happen to use the wrong type of dice, you're just switching your trust from the device to the dice. But if the dice is flowed well, you may just melt it or throw it away, or I don't know, something like this. Okay. Let's see if I have another nightmare question for you, because I don't know if this happens to everybody, but sometimes I can't not sleep at night and I make my own nightmares thinking of how things could go south. And one of these was, first I have to understand this, because I actually don't know this. How does the signing procedure works? I mean, I have a transaction, I have the private key and the derivation part, which is, I suppose, it's in the secret element, and then I have this transaction to a hash. So which is the relation between the firmware that has the software to run the actual signature and the key that is in the secure element that has to be signed? How do those things combine together? Which is the flow of the script of the RAM?
Yeah, so I'd say different hardware wallet manufacturers do it differently. We have a rather unique architecture to handle this. And so I think maybe before answering it in detail, I think it's important to understand the high-level security architecture, how we handle private keys in the device, where we have what we call a dual chip approach. So we have both a general purpose microcontroller where we run open source code, and we think open source is essential for security. And then we also have a secure element where we harden the device. And the secure element does hardening such that the BitBox is also protected against physical theft to make it very difficult for someone to extract the keys if they steal your device. And we one thing that we do unique is that we use the secure element in a trustless manner. So some other hardware wallet manufacturers will store the secret inside of the secure element, but we don't do that. What we do is we actually store an encrypted version of your seed, of your private keys, on the microcontroller itself. And in order to unlock it, you need 3 pieces of information. One is a secret stored on the MCU itself, the microcontroller itself. One is a couple of secrets actually stored on the secure element. And another is a secret not stored on the device at all. So there's actually not enough information if someone steals your device to be able to get your key. And that's a secret in your own head, which is, again, a hash of your user password. And we cryptographically combine all these in a special way. Again, we have a blog post on that. People can read more details. And then we use those 3 pieces of information to unlock the seed so that you can get your private keys to make a signature. And then once it's unlocked, we also recently added a way that we make a session encryption key such that it gets encrypted again, such that during use, it's always encrypted. It's only unlocked when you need to do a signature. And so it'll be unlocked for a few milliseconds or however long it takes to actually do the signature. And so, of course, you need some communication with the internet in order to know which addresses you have how many coins, and to kind of construct the transaction to input where you want to send coins. So that's all done on the app. This unsigned transaction, it's like a little unsigned contract, gets sent to the device. And the private key is unlocked and signs the contract, and then sends back the signature. And the private key always stays locked on board the device and never leaves the device. That's something that not everyone understands. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. I would like to see it. Probably we should make a cartoon of how things move around to make the things easier to understand. But I was saying that I was feeling paranoid about those things, but I see that the design that you put in place is even worse. I mean, you've been thinking like every single possible way in which the keys can, I don't know, they have to be protected every single time, apart from those milliseconds. But okay, I have this question. Maybe it's not really a very intelligent question. Maybe it works for I don't know, a plot for a Netflix series or movie or something like this. But I was imagining this thing, like if I can tamper with the firmware of a hardware wallet and have a signing procedure that basically is not like a standard one, like get this transaction, get these keys, and use the key to sign the transaction and send me outside the signed transaction. But instead, the fake or the malicious firmware will say, okay, the program that you have to run is get a transaction, get a private key, copy the private key, and then instead of exporting the signed transaction, export the private key. Is that something that could happen? I mean, is it possible, or it's just pure fantasy?
No, it's definitely possible. So I think when you get a hardware wallet, one thing you have to do is have some trust in the manufacturer. They always could put in a backdoor. There is some mitigations against this, which we actually pioneered and implement. And there's something, I won't be able to get into the exact technical details, but try to keep it at a high level. Something called anti-nonce protection or anti-klepto protection, where there's actually an attack where in the signature itself, so the signature is created with this contract, right? But then there is a random number that's also used as part of the signature process. It's called a nonce. And this nonce needs to be selected very carefully. There's some ways to do it deterministically. I won't go into the rabbit hole there. But basically, a malicious firmware could select a nonce or basically try different nonces until it gets a signature with a certain type of format. Where basically they can keep trying different nonces until they get a signature that starts to encode secrets. So for example, encode a few bytes of the seed. And then when the signature comes out, they'll have a marker to indicate that this type of transaction is from this malicious firmware. And then based on that marker, then the bits after that, they can use to reconstruct the seed. And so they'll need to do this a few times. I don't know, maybe 5, 10 times. I forget exactly. But basically doing that, then they can extract the whole seed. And so, yeah. And so it doesn't matter what your wallet is. It's possible to do this. But there is a mitigation where basically you can add another random number. This time, it shouldn't come from the hardware itself. It should come from the app. And so the app can input another random number. And through the magic of cryptography, looking at the signature, you can prove that this random number from the app was also used to create the signature. And then by doing that, it'd be impossible for the firmware to leak secrets through this particular attack. And also, your attack in a more general sense, where they just maybe don't do the fancy thing with the signatures, but just straight out leak the private key. That also wouldn't be possible because it's combined with the app. And so combined with a random number from the app. And so the app would have a job here to send this number and verify that it was actually used before transmitting it, which we were one of the pioneers to do this.
Wow. So you gave me both good news and bad news at the same time. So like well, as everything in security, there's no perfect way to say that any device or any procedure is 101% secure under any. I mean, it's just all about raising the bar to a level where you're comfortable with. And after that, you just cross your finger and expect to be, hope to be lucky, right? Okay.
So I would just add on that. So again, I mentioned at the beginning that one of our goals is to try to minimize the amount of trust that people need in us. And so through that, I mentioned open source also is a very crucial part of security. I think open source also, in addition to just security of the code, it's also security of the people processes in place. And so by that, I mean, the code is all out there. Anyone can go look at it. If we do something malicious, people will be able to see it. And so it holds, the company holds employees accountable. I think that's maybe the biggest benefit of open source code.
Absolutely.
And then in order to make use of that, then there's a couple of technical things you need to do, which is deterministic firmware builds. That means you have a process set up that anyone, anywhere can compile your code that's open source on GitHub and come out to the same binary. Bit for bit, it's the same. That's a deterministic build. Yep. And then people can verify that what we publish on our website actually is what's being loaded up into the firmware. So when we make a release, they can see the firmware binary, they can recompile it themselves and show that. And then we have of course, not everyone's going to be able to do that. So we also implemented a program where third parties can add their signatures to verify that they did indeed do this process. It's a little bit like the GPG protocol where you get a community of trust.
Cool. Do you have any advice for newbies or for user, or is there a mistake that you see being repeated over and over and over that you would like to get rid of once and for all in the use that people make of their devices when sending Bitcoin? Or is there a flaw that we would like to cancel once and for all?
Yeah, I think, yeah, well, there's a couple things. First of all, I want to say that if you have an interview about security with someone involved in hardware wallets, they're going to talk about lots and lots of threats and lots of attacks and so on and so on. But I think that's our job. So it's in our mind. But I think by far, hardware wallet, almost any hardware wallet will give you orders of magnitude more security than keeping your coins in a hot wallet on your phone or in the exchange also. So just to get that out of the way.
Yeah,
and
then this pops me a flash question. Phones have a security chip inside, but when you say don't trust the software wallet on your phone, does that imply that the security of the secure element is not as big, or is the software around it that makes it weaker?
So the problem with secure elements in phones, so some software wallets will use those to store secrets. That's a good thing to do. It's better than not doing it. But the problem is that you don't have a trusted display. And so there's lots of different malware that can overwrite your display. And so what you think, you can't verify that what you think you're doing is really what's going to happen. And so just as an example, like you want to send coins to a certain address, maybe your screen displays all that information correctly, but it's lying to you. And then underneath that, coins get sent to a different address. And so that screen is absolutely crucial to a hardware wallet, to security, a dedicated screen on the device that can't be manipulated with.
Good, okay. And getting back to the mistakes that you want to get rid of, or you would like people not making anymore.
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, get your coins off of exchanges, get your coins off of hot wallets.
Absolutely.
Get a hardware wallet, any hardware wallet. And then I think some of the biggest mistakes, I think, come down to education, I guess is the right word, in the sense that cryptocurrencies work different than what people are used to online. This is part of what makes them special and valuable, is this idea of immutability, uncensorship or censorship resistance, things like that. That basically means that gone is gone. So if someone can steal your coins, you're not going to get them back. There's no way to get them back. Whereas people are used to, for example, if they get locked out of their Gmail account, maybe there's a way to reset that with some kind of recovery mechanism. They're used to someone being there for when they mess up. But with cryptocurrencies, you have to have a bit more self-responsibility. And so the biggest loss that we see in customer funds usually has to do with forgetting their password, forgetting their login information. And so just need to be aware that you have to keep this secure. You have to keep multiple backups. And so
multiple.
Well, it depends how much funds you have.
Because there is this different way of thinking about it. Because some say if you make just one copy, you lose the copy, you're done. If you make multiple copies, it's harder to forget all the copies where they are. So you may eventually find one, but the more copies you make, the more copies are there to be found by an attacker. So is it possible to find a balance in between those two?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest design issue right now with wallets. I don't think there's a very good solution. And so I think, it really depends on your circumstances. And I also think it depends on how many coins you have. So, for example, one option is to make multiple wallets and have backup for each one. So you're kind of splitting up your funds in that sense. Could have multiple backups in multiple jurisdictions. Of course, you need to watch out for physical damage. Like if you have a fire at your house, what do you do? So there's steel backups, which are a good option. Things like that. Splitting your backup, like Shamir secret sharing, for example, may be an option. although it adds a bit more complexity and adds, if you give shares to other people, it adds some human elements, trust elements there. I think, of course, in Bitcoin, there's multi-sig approaches, Ethereum also with the smart contract multi-sig. And I think in Bitcoin, this mini script is coming. Mini script support, it's going to come to the BitBox also, where now you can actually get some kind of interesting new ways to do backups or security, in the sense that you can have setups, for example, where you have a normal wallet, you can spend coins maybe with like a 2 of 3 multi-signature setup. But then if you lose some of your keys, you can set it such that after a certain time period, say 6 months or a year, you can revert to like a single sig wallet, such that if you lose one of the keys, you can recover. And also it's the same for backups and for lost passwords. So you could, maybe there's some interesting solution that could be done there. There's going to be a lot of UX work that's needed to make it easy.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. By the way, I have to say that the user experience that I had using BitBox and testing BitBox was great. Worked just like straightforward. I have a tester myself, which is my wife, and I made the test to my wife, which is not Bitcoin savvy at all, but she managed to do the operation herself and to see how it works. It was actually phenomenal. So Douglas, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for your time and for the knowledge that you share with us. It's not something that I do very often, but I would like just to hear from you. What do you think? What do you expect for Bitcoin in ending of 2023 and 2024? What do you expect from the market, from the adoption, ETFs? What do you think is going to happen? Where would you bet a beer?
My usual advice I follow is, when I ask someone what they think, then I just kind of do the opposite. But I think the future is bright. I think the fundamentals for Bitcoin, why it exists, are still there. They only get stronger as you look at what's happening in the world with inflation and runaway inflation in a lot of countries around the world, the money printing and so on. So I think also I've noticed that people aren't paying so much attention anymore. I haven't looked at the price in a while. So
I don't know.
I think that's a great sign of the bottom. And yeah, I think I lie. I looked at the price yesterday. I saw a news article that I think Grayscale, the big entity in America, won a court case against the SEC, which might pave the way for an ETF to come out. And of course, that'll be a way that'll be a lot more accessible to lots of people to dip their toes in. And I think one thing interesting, so I've been through a few bear bull cycles, and the previous ones, not this last one, but the ones before, usually in the bottom, a lot of people just give up. I think, okay, there's no more use. But in the bottom of this one, I noticed that it's a bit of a different attitude with people. Maybe more people have gone through it. Maybe there's a longer history where people are like, yeah, it's gone down. Yeah, maybe it's a good time to buy. Of course, there's still the people who are skeptical that'll change in time. But I think the people who've been through it have a lot thicker skin. They kind of know what to expect. And I think that's just making a stronger and stronger foundation for a bigger and bigger growth in the future.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. Douglas, thank you so much. I definitely hope you to see you sometimes, somewhere in some Bitcoin conference somewhere. And thank you personally for the time that you chose to share with us and all the things that you taught about Bitcoin, hardware wallets, and all the beautiful things that you do at BITBOX. By the way, I put all the description of BITBOX and the links of BITBOX in the description of this video. Please go check it out and see it for yourself. Douglas, thank you very much. See you another time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Marco. It was a pleasure being on your show.
Thank you, Douglas. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.